people that are in the shop that are friends with each other that never would have met each other unless they had sat across from each other and smoked a cigar. They are getting together after the shop is closed. They're doing vacations together. They're doing holidays together.
In this episode, I sit down with Ian Harvey, a cigar lounge owner and expert in the craft, who has built a community around the small batch philosophy. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Cigar Standard. I'm Nate. Today we have Ian Harvey from Smokers Abbey, and we're gonna get into some great small batch cigars.
This is called the Benediction. It is a Nicaraguan Puro. It's smooth enough that new cigar smokers love it, but it's also very complex.
Smokers Abbey, is it one shop or do you and your wife have multiple shops?
We are the second in a collective of shops called Smokers Abbey.
Okay.
The original one opened in Nashville by a guy that I know named Josh Stump. Josh was a pastor at the time, and he was also heavily involved in the hardcore and metal scene, which is where I met him. My wife and I were thinking about opening a shop, and so I called the one guy that I knew that had done it from the ground up and had kind of come from the same background that I had. And we decided that we were gonna kind of work together and kind of be kind of a collective. Smokers Abbey in Nashville, we were the second. There's one in Memphis. And all of us are kind of the same. Like we were heavily involved in the church scene, but also in the punk and hardcore scene. The idea is to create places that not only focus on community, but also kind of drive this kind of artistic idea behind cigars. We're all very boutique focused. My wife and I decided that we were going to be solely boutiques early on.
Okay.
I started smoking cigars in 2003. I was living on a Baptist university campus, and we had one little section that we could smoke in because we had a lot of international students and they all smoked cigarettes. So they had to give it to them. So we were like, well, they can smoke cigarettes, we can smoke cigars. Moving forward from 2003, any group that I was involved in, I was always kind of the cigar guy for everybody because I was the one that consistently kept going back and going, no, I freaking love this.
Yeah.
Like I want to keep digging down on this and find what's out there. I got looked at pretty sideways a lot when I would go into humidors. I noticed that I would get followed a little bit more than maybe some of the other patrons that were in there that looked a little bit more respectable. And so when we opened our shop, there was a little bit of apprehension with especially some of the older folks that were coming in on whether I was an employee or I actually knew what I was doing. It's taken some time, but I think people have kind of grown to understand that my wife and I really do dig into this stuff pretty hard, and that the way that we present ourselves, that more stems from our older life rather than the one that we've kind of developed as we've been cigar shop owners. We always wanted it to be open to those folks too, so we were like, well, we'll just be who we are, and we'll play Dillinger Escape Plan in the shop every now and then, and see if anybody's head raises up.
Well, that's the great thing about Austin too, is
Yeah.
you're not in some small town where it's sort of a little bit more homogenous, right? There is a nice variety of all kinds of different people and tastes in music and food and culture in Austin. So it's really cool that you guys have grown where you have planted yourselves. That's pretty awesome.
Yep. The thought is to try to kind of take the temperature down a little bit and try to make it accessible for working class people and people who were artists. And we wanted to make a place that just felt like those guys could come to and feel like they could sit next to those guys that want to wear a three-piece suit and be able to get along with those.
The fedora
those
and the whole thing, and that's
great.
Right. That's all cool stuff. What I don't want to impart on people or to force on other people is like, you have to be this way and you have to smoke these cigars, and you know, my tastes are different, I'm sure, than a lot of people's tastes. And I think it's cool that you have a shop where you just kind of come as you are.
That was kind of the win for us, is we wanted to be a place that people who maybe felt like they were a bit of an outsider in some other shops felt like that they could come here and kind of just be themselves, as long as they're not a dick. And just be able to kind of be their real person around each other and then engage with each other that way. I opened a business so that I can make a living out of it, obviously. But My partner and I always remind ourselves that the biggest win is that there are people that are in the shop that are friends with each other that never would have met each other unless they had sat across from each other and smoked a cigar. And they're like homies now. Like they are like real friends. Like not just like, oh, hey, what was your name? No, it isn't like that. Like they are getting together after the shop is closed. They're doing vacations together. They're doing holidays together and stuff like that. And we know for a fact that they never would have run into each other if there hadn't been a space for them to be able to do that. That ultimately is what lounges should be for.
What constitutes a small batch? Is it the limited production? Is it the size of the harvest from which they're coming? Or is it a lot of different factors?
The reason we call it small batch is because that name, that term seems to kind of encompass what most people understand when you're talking about other things that they enjoy. You have a lot of small batch bourbon in the background here. It's not always the number that they can produce, but I think it sometimes is the attitude behind it. For us, what we look for, what we consider small batch boutique, has more to do with a touch of kind of a uniqueness to the company. They're doing something that is not very common, that's kind of out in the world. And because these companies are a little bit smaller, they have the room to be able to kind of experiment more and to be able to throw a lot out there. We've had cigars that have been made with primarily Indonesian tobacco. Matilde released one of those last year. We've had a lot of real African Cameroon on some of our cigars, which is almost impossible to produce at a mass level because of the rareness and the fragility of the tobacco. But since our guys are small, they're like, hey, we're fine with just making 2,000 of these rather than trying to make 10,000 of these.
Right.
A lot of our guys go for bigger hits on the flavor profiles. Oh, you like a little bit of chocolate? We like a lot of chocolate. Oh, you like a little bit of pepper? Let's make it a lot of pepper. That type of thing. And then the weirdest one, and I give props to these guys because this is one of the weirdest things that I've seen in a long time, but I love it. If you're aware of Candela cigars, the green wrapper, traditionally in our industry for the last several decades, that's all been one leaf. That's an Ecuadorian Connecticut. We carry a company now called Apostate, who their Candela is a Dominican Corojo fermented as a Candela. So the base leaf is a Dominican Corojo, so it has a little bit of that spice, a little bit of that earth, and then they put a Mexican San Andres binder underneath it to give it a little richness, and then they did high-end Dominican fillers to give it a little punch. It is probably one of the wildest cigars that we have in our humidor, and probably one of the wildest cigars that I've smoked, period. And that's something we really are only finding in kind of the world that we're playing with. They're not afraid to try something that probably maybe will fail, but every now and then. But now that Candela is Apostate's highest selling cigar. They keep running out of it, and that's unreal. Like, people don't sell out Candelas. Like, that's not something that happens.
You don't hear about that.
But it's kind of an attitude, and it's kind of a sense of creativity and willingness to take risks.
What makes a small batch cigar special compared to the more widely available brands at shops?
When you walk into a lot of cigar shops, you're seeing kind of the same 9, 15 brands that you see everywhere else. And while that is very comforting for some people, for me, it was always a little frustrating because I felt like if I had gone to this lounge in Dallas and then I go over here to if I'm in Colorado, I feel like I should be able to find something maybe a little different from shop to shop. So that's the first thing, is it just gives some people a little bit of a variety, a little bit of uniqueness with the type of cigars that they have to select from. When you talk about production levels, so a company, a large scale company that most people see in every humidor, most of those companies are producing 200 to 250 million cigars a year. That's a lot of cigars. That's a lot of tobacco. When you do something at that level, there has to be kind of like a flattening of the experience to get consistency. What our industry calls boutique, what we call small batch, what they're able to do is they're able to go after tobacco that's maybe a little too expensive to buy at that scale, too unique or rare to buy at that scale, or they go after flavor profiles that maybe in the big guys' heads wouldn't sell on a mass level. So most of the cigar companies that we work with produce 1.5 at the high end. So if you compare the 1.5 to the 200, obviously the ability to focus on higher quality tobacco and also more unusual blend profiles is you have a lot more opportunity to do that. So it creates cigars that are very distinct and very expressive. I think when you're looking at any industry, especially one that is craft oriented, I think that you should always be looking at who's trying to push the envelope a little bit.
Yeah.
I think you should always be trying to go out there and find who does something maybe a little bit off kilter from what I'm used to. I like this. This is my base. This is what I dig. But what else is out there that can maybe be my next favorite thing? And the easiest way to find that is look to the artists. People that approach it from an artistic, creative point of view are always going to come out with something that is a little bit different than what you were, or maybe widely different than what you were expecting from that experience. What has been so awesome about specifically the type of companies that we work with is there's always kind of this drive to push the envelope a little bit and try to explore new profiles and try to get people into stuff. I mean, nobody was talking about Matafina or broadleaf until the boutique side kind of jumped on it. Broadleaf, Mexican San Andres, those were not considered high-end tobaccos.
No.
And then the boutique guys went, no, we can do something with this. Now everybody's watching it. And I think that if you are into anything like that, look to the people that are trying to push the envelope, because that's always where you're going to find some very fulfilling experiences.
From the business side, how has it been? Have you seen growth?
We're on our 9th year right now.
Okay.
And if you do the math, that means that we were definitely very much a business during COVID. That was a tough time. We've had a lot of setbacks. We've had some hard times, but in general, we've seen pretty good growth. We moved from a very small space to a much larger space about 4 years ago that has a lot more foot traffic, and we've seen some really cool jumps for us since we've been over there. This last year for the entire cigar industry has been tough, but for the most part, we felt pretty positive about it. We're still open, we're still going. So some days that has to be enough. For us, being able to have something that we do every day that we love and that we want to share with people, that's kind of the win for us overall. We hope that things improve so that we can get more folks in there and just continue to grow and continue to evolve as time goes on, because the more people come in, the better stuff I can get.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ian, thank you for coming. I really enjoyed getting to hear about your journey with the shop ownership and the boutique cigars, and I really, really enjoyed the cigar you brought, this Lonsdale. Terrific flavor, terrific instruction, very even burn, just really an awesome cigar. So I really, really appreciate you sharing that with me.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you guys for having us. We'll see you around.